Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're plunging into a topic that, well, many of us probably assume we've already got covered, but maybe not. We're talking about building a truly conscious and deep relationship with yourself. It's pretty easy to think, I'm me, so obviously I know myself, or maybe that just spending time alone means you have a strong self-connection. But what if that's, well, a bit of a misconception? Our deep dive today looks at the idea that this relationship isn't just passive. It's a deliberate thing, a conscious decision that takes real effort, much like any other important connection in your life.
Exactly. And our mission for you today really is to break down the practical habits and those mindset shifts from our source material that actively nurture this connection. Ultimately, this deep dive is about giving you a kind of blueprint for stepping into, well, what the source calls your best self.
Right. And our main source for this is a really interesting YouTube video transcript from Tam Kaur. It's titled, How to Build a Relationship with Yourself, Self-Love Habits and Mindset to Become the Best You.
Mm-hmm.
What I found effective about it is how it's structured. It moves pretty logically from, tangible habits, the day-to-day stuff.
The foundation.
Exactly. The foundation, right through to those crucial inner mindset shifts that can really change how you see yourself. So yeah, get ready. We're going to unpack some key insights, maybe a few surprising things, and definitely some actionable steps. Hopefully this helps you shortcut your way to a deeper understanding of self-love and personal growth.
Let's get into it. Okay, so thinking about relationships, what's the absolute bedrock of any solid one? Our source makes a pretty bold claim here. It's not just about trusting other people, but fundamentally about trusting yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like it's built on something many of us might be unknowingly chipping away at every day.
Yeah, it's fascinating. This material really defines self-trust as being built quite explicitly through discipline. The phrase used is saying what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it.
Simple but powerful.
It really is. Think about it. Every time you put off something you promised yourself or you just don't follow through, well, you erode that trust. You wouldn't really trust a friend who kept letting you down.
No, of course not.
So, yeah, why would you expect to trust yourself if you do the same thing? It's about consistency. And the material gives some strong examples. It talks about weekly check-ins.
Like planning on a Sunday.
Yeah, maybe looking back at your New Year's goals or just your weekly ones to make sure you're staying consistent. And it contrasts how we often show up for others, waking up early for a friend, doing favors versus ourselves.
Hitting snooze on your own alarm?
Exactly, or taking days off from your own goals. There's also a really quite raw personal story from the speaker. She talks about being a serial dater and how that kept reinforcing this limiting belief she had about having no self-control.
Wow.
Yeah. And the big shift. It came when she took a whole year off dating. Just stopped completely. Started taking herself on solo dates, celebrating holidays alone, really leaning into that discomfort.
That sounds tough.
It probably was, but that deliberate discipline, that showing up for herself, built this undeniable self-trust. That's the core message there.
Okay. That year off dating is a huge example, maybe a bit daunting for some. Does the source offer, maybe, more incremental ways to build that trust if a whole year isn't practical right now?
Oh, absolutely. The year off is, like you say, a big personal example. But the principle applies to any promise you keep to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It could be as simple as, hitting snooze one less time each morning, or just completing one small task you told yourself you'd do today. It's the consistency, even in small things, that builds that track record with yourself. That's the key.
Got it. So once you start laying that foundation of self-trust, the material suggests the next step is deliberately pushing your boundaries, pushing yourself.
That's right, because discomfort is where the growth happens.
Stepping into new situations, trying challenging things, it inherently builds discipline and it reinforces that self-trust you've started building. The example given is starting and growing a YouTube channel.
Okay.
Which, for the speaker, wasn't just about creativity. It actively challenged her introverted nature. She had to learn business stuff, reading books, articles, taking courses, hire people, go to influencer events, network.
A lot involved.
Yeah, a lot. Creative problem solving, time management. The point is, her growth as a creator directly mirrored her personal growth. She talked about shedding old versions of herself, versions that maybe weren't comfortable with visibility or putting herself out there.
And wasn't there a specific event you mentioned? The YouTube Creator Collective? That sounds like a prime example of stepping out of the comfort zone.
Exactly. That event was pretty significant. It brought together, I think, 100 female creators. And besides the business panels, the speaker actually hosted the evening part introducing and closing it.
Oh, wow. Public speaking.
Yeah. And there was this interesting icebreaker. Instead of just complimenting each other, women picked up cards that said, I am amazing because, and then had to explain why to someone else.
Shifting the focus inward.
Precisely. Deliberately focusing on self-affirmation. For the speaker, yeah, the public speaking was a huge personal challenge, but she framed it as an intentional step into a new version of herself. And beyond her own growth, it really highlighted the value of community, learning from other women doing similar things, exercising those social muscles.
Okay, so we've talked about bigger challenges like building a channel or public speaking, but then the source kind of zooms in on something more tangible, more everyday. This idea of buying yourself the damn flowers and taking solo days, it feels simple, but maybe quite powerful.
It's definitely powerful because it works on your subconscious mind. It's about reprogramming. When you treat yourself with that same thoughtfulness, that attention you'd give to a friend or a partner, you're sending yourself a message.
What message is that?
That I am worthy of this care. If you only ever pour your energy into others, the subconscious takeaway can easily become other people always come first.
Right, I can see that.
And the material connects this to breaking out of what it calls a victim mentality, asking, why can't I find the right person, or things like that. Instead, you actively give yourself the love and attention you're looking for externally. Small acts, flowers, making yourself nice pancakes, they remind you that you value yourself.
And speaking of valuing yourself, that leads directly into another key area the source emphasizes. Personal boundaries, something many people, myself included sometimes, struggle with.
Oh, definitely. Setting and, crucially, honoring your boundaries is presented as fundamental, even if it means, and this is the hard part, disappointing other people sometimes.
Yeah, that's the tricky bit.
It is. But the source explains that when you free yourself from that constant need to please everyone, you actually create the space, the capacity to meet your own needs. And the flip side, not setting boundaries, it's like telling yourself subconsciously that you're not worthy of respect and consideration, that everyone else's needs matter more. But here's where it gets really interesting. Boundaries aren't just about other people.
Oh.
It's also, maybe even more importantly, about boundaries with yourself. And this ties right back into discipline.
How so?
Well, think about time boundaries. Let's say after your regular workday, your 9 to 5, what are you doing intentionally with that time? Are you consciously choosing activities that bring joy or help you grow or move towards your goals? Or are you just kind of floating through every day?
Guilty sometimes.
Yeah.
Scrolling, perhaps.
Exactly. The source mentions scrolling on TikTok for 3 whole hours. It's about avoiding that kind of endless procrastination by setting internal boundaries. It frames it as sacrificing temporary satisfaction for more long-term gain, like getting up early for your goals versus that extra hour in bed. It's a boundary with your immediate desire for comfort. And another big one is actually scheduling me time and rest, explicitly putting it in your calendar.
Not just hoping it happens.
Right. The speaker admits she used to just fill her schedule with work, which reinforced this belief that she was just a work machine. Now she consciously blocks out breaks, entire rest days, like Sundays maybe. She sees it as crucial for balance and actually a form of self-love.
And what about energy? That feels harder to schedule.
It is. You can't always plan for energy levels. So energy boundaries are more about monitoring yourself, staying conscious of how you're feeling, and then adjusting, honoring those cues when you feel overwhelmed or exhausted, recognizing you're allowed to stay in bed if you truly need it. The source calls this a huge form of self-love. It's almost like reparenting yourself, showing yourself you have your own best interests at heart.
That connection between boundaries with others and boundaries with ourselves is really striking. Self-respect seems to be the core. So if challenges help us understand others better in relationships, what does the source say about challenges in self-discovery?
It draws a really strong parallel there. It suggests that an addiction to comfort and ease, always staying safe, leads straight to stagnation. And it calls stagnation the most self-hating thing you could ever do, which is a powerful statement.
Wow, yeah.
Because if you never challenge yourself, you don't grow. You don't deepen that relationship with yourself. So beneficial challenges are basically anything that pushes you out of that comfort zone.
Like what?
Oh, anything really. Learning a new language, joining a class, cooking a meal you've never made before, baking something complex, meeting totally new people, networking if that feels scary, starting a small project, exploring a new part of town by yourself. The key phrase was, anything as long as you find it uncomfortable and scary.
That's the marker. Discomfort equals potential growth.
Exactly. That's where the self-discovery really kicks in.
Okay, and to kind of wrap up this whole section on habits and lifestyle,
Yeah.
it all comes back to reflection, right?
Yeah.
Looking back.
Yes. Think about how we often look back on relationships with loved ones, the shared memories, seeing how you've both grown. The source argues we should do the same for ourselves. It specifically suggests connecting with your inner child
How do you do that practically?
by watching old home movies if you have them, looking through old photos, maybe asking family about what you were like, or reading old diaries or journals if you kept them. Seeing those past entries can really highlight how much you've actually grown and discovered about yourself.
That's a great idea.
And it's not just about the past. It's also connecting with your future self. Things like vision boarding, setting clear goals, and, importantly, trying to feel the emotions of achieving those goals now, bringing that future feeling into the present.
That's a really comprehensive look at the doing part, those habits and lifestyle shifts. Now let's pivot. Let's move from the external actions to the internal landscape,
Yep.
our second big section, mindset shifts. And we'll start with something huge, changing your self-talk.
This is critical. The source points out the sheer volume of thoughts we have daily, something like 60,000.
That many? Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot. And if most of those are negative, just imagine the impact. How can you possibly feel good about yourself? It uses a really effective analogy. Think about being in a relationship with someone who constantly criticized you, always saying you should have done better or you're not good enough. You'd recognize that's toxic, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You wouldn't tolerate it.
Exactly. Yet, we often let our own inner critic run wild with that kind of talk all day long, and we barely even notice it sometimes. And these inner conversations, they have a massive impact on our self-image, our self-concept, our belief in what we can achieve. It often leads to things like people-pleasing, too.
So what's the alternative? How do we shift that?
Well, the solution offered sounds simple, but it takes practice. Giving more power to your inner cheerleader than your inner critic. The material is really emphatic about this. Self-doubt is presented as a choice, not some fixed reality.
A choice.
Yes, you choose whether to believe those negative thoughts, whether to give them power, just like you could choose to empower the positive, self-affirming ones instead.
Okay, choosing positive thoughts sounds good, but that inner critic can be really loud and persistent. How do you actually weaken its power? The source mentioned a technique called witness consciousness. Can you unpack that a bit?
Yeah, it's actually a pretty simple but profound practice. It's essentially about observing your thoughts with detachment. So instead of instantly buying into every thought that pops into your head, like, oh, I really don't like myself today, you just watch it. You see the thought come, you acknowledge it, and then you let it go without automatically giving it power or believing it's the absolute truth.
Like watching clouds drift by?
Kind of like that, yeah. You become a witness to your own mind. You start to understand that thoughts are just thoughts. They aren't necessarily facts. It's very similar to the kind of mental training you get from practices like meditation or maybe yoga, things that help you become more present and just sit with your thoughts without judgment.
Interesting. Now here's something that felt a bit counterintuitive at first. The source suggests our external relationships, our interactions with other people, can actually fuel internal growth. How does that work?
Yeah, it's an insightful perspective. It's about seeing all your interactions with pretty much anyone you encounter as an opportunity for your own self-growth.
Okay, give me an example.
Sure. Let's say you're having challenges with someone in your life, maybe a colleague or family member. Instead of just getting caught up in their behavior or blaming them, the material encourages you to turn inward and ask, okay, why am I getting triggered by this? What is this situation showing me? What would I like to change here?
So it's less about them, more about your reaction.
Exactly. This perspective helps you detach a bit from feeling personally attacked or mistreated by others. You start seeing it more as data. You learn valuable lessons about your own triggers, your needs, what you actually want and don't want in relationships. So it kind of counters the idea that self-growth only happens when you're isolated. Other people can actually shine a light on parts of ourselves we need to work on or parts we've hidden away.
That makes sense. Okay, building on that idea of perspective, the source introduces another really powerful mindset shift. One that honestly kind of resonated with me viewing life as a game. How does seeing life as a game differ from, say, a more common victim mentality?
Well, they're almost polar opposites. A victim mentality tends to sound like life is unfair, nothing ever goes my way, why me?
Right. Focused on external circumstances being against you.
Precisely. And that keeps you obsessed with what's happening outside of you and pretty disconnected from your internal world, your own power. The life is a game perspective flips that entirely. You start seeing yourself as like a character in this game and you have a mission. And everything that happens, especially the challenges, the obstacles, isn't happening to you, it's happening for you.
Happening for me.
Yeah, to help you learn, to help you grow, to help you progress to the next step in the game. It really echoes that saying, rejection is redirection.
I like that.
This mindset shifts your focus away from comparing yourself to others. Their wins got nothing to do with me. Instead, you focus on your personal growth, your game, creating your reality. It helps you see that there are multiple levels and multiple opportunities for self-growth all around you.
That's a really empowering reframe.
Well,
But how do we make sure that seeing life as a game doesn't become an excuse, like avoiding real accountability or just dismissing genuine struggles?
that's a really important question. And that's where the final mindset shift actually comes in, accountability. The life is a game idea isn't about dodging responsibility at all. It's about taking responsibility in a much more proactive, less blaming way. Because healthy relationships, and that includes the one with yourself, always require accountability. You have to own your part.
So how does accountability look in this context?
Well, the material uses the example of maybe falling off track with a fitness goal, like going to the gym. Instead of just blaming external stuff, oh, I was too lazy, I was overworked, I just didn't have enough energy, you shift gears, you start asking the right questions.
Not excuses, but actual questions.
Exactly. Genuine accountability questions. Things like, okay, why did I really skip that workout? Was I maybe afraid of being judged or perceived at the gym? Am I genuinely overworked and maybe need to adjust my schedule? Is there a better time for me to go? Should I maybe try a different gym or activity? Am I actually scared of making a fool of myself trying something new?
Okay, deeper questions.
Much deeper. Asking those kinds of honest questions helps you dig down to find the root cause of why you didn't follow through. And doing that consistently, that honest self-assessment, builds such a strong and self-trusting relationship with yourself. It's about understanding yourself, not just blaming yourself or external factors.
That really ties everything together beautifully. The habits, the mindset, the accountability. Okay, that was an incredible journey through those shifts. Now, for the part where we make it super practical, time for the actionable steps you can take away and apply immediately. We like to call this the homework chapter.
Love it. Okay, task number 1. This is all about engaging in that self-reflection we talked about earlier. We really encourage you to try and connect with your inner child. How? Maybe look up old home movies if you can. Ask family members about stories from when you were younger. Go through old camera rolls on your phone or actual photo albums if you have them. Or revisit old journal entries.
And if you don't have any of that stuff?
Good point. If none of that exists, then this is your sign, your cue to start journaling today. Seriously, it's never too late to begin documenting your own journey and thoughts.
Okay, connect to the past or start documenting the present. Got it. What's task 2?
Task number 2 is beautifully simple, but maybe not easy. Do something that scares you.
Back to the comfort zone.
Exactly. We want to reiterate how important stepping outside that zone is for growth. So the challenge is to pick something. It could be cooking a completely new type of meal you've never attempted, joining a class, pottery, dancing, coding, whatever, maybe actively networking if that feels intimidating, making an effort to meet one new friend, or even trying a dating app if finding a relationship is a goal and that feels like a scary step for you.
So the specific action doesn't matter as much as the feeling.
Precisely. The goal is to consciously put yourself in a situation where you feel a little bit uncomfortable, maybe a bit awkward or uncertain, because that feeling is the signal that growth is possible right there.
Wow, okay. What a profound journey we've really been on today,
Yeah.
exploring how to build this conscious, deeply connected relationship with yourself. We've covered so much, from those practical habits like building self-trust through discipline, setting those crucial boundaries.
Both with others and yourself.
Right, and buying yourself the flowers, all the way to those really transformative mindset shifts, changing self-talk, that witness consciousness, seeing life as a game.
Yeah, this deep dive really shows, I think, that some of the most impactful, most important relationships we'll ever cultivate are the ones we build internally. It's really about becoming your own best friend, isn't it? Your own most reliable partner, your strongest advocate.
Absolutely. So, wrapping this up, what does this all mean for you listening right now? We'll leave you with this thought. If your relationship with yourself truly is the longest one you'll ever have, what conscious commitment, maybe just one small one, are you ready to make, starting today, to ensure it becomes the most supported and fulfilling one it can be? Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We really hope you take these insights, maybe try out the homework, and just watch how your relationship with yourself begins to transform.